Alright, what's good with y'all? So I'm gonna make the best out of this video because I am not in a good mood right now. I'm just gonna keep it a stack with y'all. So we've been talking about this shit a lot, like about the digital copy, digital releasing, and it's just a lot going on, man, with The Last of Us 2 right now. You know what I'm saying? They haven't made no decisions yet. We just don't know. There's people saying it's gonna be a digital release. There's people saying it's not gonna be a digital release. I don't know what's true until we get an announcement for real. You know, that's all I can say for now. Shout out to Black Woods for this video. You know what I'm saying? I guess he's going to be giving his opinions on why he think the digital release is going to release and that it's going to release early. So let's go ahead and get into this banger. Yes, sir. Oh, and before I start this video, I need every single one of y'all to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Please turn on notifications to get notified when I upload and stream, man. I do reactions and reviews on video games and stuff like that. So technically I cover video games and then stream the games when they come out, do a let's play when they come out. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. I cover video games. Yeah. And I do vlogs here and there, mukbangs, collabs here and there with different people. So yeah, man, big future on the way. Let's go ahead and get into this video.
Now, the biggest asked question arrives, is The Last of Us Part 2 possible to be released as a digital version any sooner? Now, there are a few people that believe that The Last of Us 2 won't release digitally no matter what the case is, it just won't. Now, I understand where they are coming from and why they're not able to see the bigger picture of how the business and marketing basically works. Well, the only possible answer they could give you guys is that Sony won't release the digital early version because they will lose a lot of money, or some people won't be able to play the game digitally. Now, yes, of course, these are some of the basic factors that Sony needs to think about when releasing their game. But if you look at the business part of things, there is an entirely different picture that most of us don't even realize on how gaming companies work and why The Last of Us Part 2 has a much higher chance at this moment to be released as a digital version without it being delayed. Now, the first and foremost important aspect when it comes to development of a video game is going to be investment. And any big company, including Sony Interactive Studios, need investors to fund Naughty Dog in developing The Last of Us Part 2. Now, these investors are the guys that solely believe in Sony, and they've invested millions and billions of dollars with a contract signed in, which usually states that whatever the money they've invested in The Last of Us Part 2's project will be returned to them with a certain amount of profit percentage on the given release date. Now, this is the reason to why all of these investors get to see the game much earlier and get to play the demo version of the game much earlier on private events. And now these events are basically made to show the investors on how much of a progress Naughty Dog has done with the development of Last of Us 2. And it's basically letting them know that the game will be released with no issues or delays or any sorts of problems. And it is a form of means on letting these investors know that they will be getting their money back on or after the promised release dates. Now remember, The Last of Us Part 2 was supposed to be released back in February 21st of this year, and that's the date that Sony has promised their investors to return their investment funds back in time. But since Naughty Dog failed to finish their game in time, they had to inform Sony to further extend the deadline for the project, which by the way is not something that is easily done from Sony's end, because they will have to convince all of their angry investors to give them a little more time. So they ended up getting a new delayed release date on May 29th. Now, once again, Sony has put a pause on the release schedules for The Last of Us 2. Now, guys, listen very carefully. This is in no form of a way is a delayed release date. Now, Sony only removed the current release date where they've only put a halt on their recent decisions. Now, they haven't really delayed the release date of The Last of Us 2 because they never gave us a new release date. Now, the reason why they did not delay The Last of Us 2 once again with a new release date is because they cannot go ahead and ask these investors to give them even more time because they have previously delayed the promised release date for the game. So Sony would obviously lose all the reputation they've built for all these years, and since they've re-signed a contract already which promises that the investors will be getting their money back on or after the release date of The Last of Us Part 2 on May 29th, 2020. And delaying the game once again is just as good as losing all those investors for all the future
Boy, they gonna be mad as heck.
And in worst case scenarios, Sony might even get sued for promising to return the money to the investors in time, which they will fail to do so if they delayed The Last of Us 2 any further. Which is why Sony has very clearly not mentioned a new release date for The Last of Us Part 2, since they also have their upcoming next generation consoles coming out by the end of this year, and losing the trust of their investors is the last thing they want to be doing. Now obviously Sony might simply mention that the game needs to be delayed because of the global pandemic issues and that they cannot produce the physical versions and ship it across the world at this moment, but the investors would still not be convinced because they don't really care about how Sony deals with their project, nor do they care on why the project is being delayed. The only reply they would give is if Sony had finished their game in the first place on February, then none of this would have happened and the investors would have got their money back in time. And now since the game has already been delayed once, and also because the next generation consoles are arriving this year, and from business point of view, delaying The Last of Us Part 2 any further will put Sony on a very bad situation. And imagine if investors stop funding Sony in the future projects, then we might not even see as many games being developed on the PlayStation 5. So taking one wrong decision can completely jeopardize the future of these industries. Now, this is not just me saying things on my own predictions. Now, of course, Neil Druckmann, the man himself, has talked about this recently. Now, this is what he said.
Damn it, Blackwoods, let me watch this ad. Shit, bro.
And I quote, "Internally, we know that we have a great game and it's just that we have to wait a little longer to get it out there to our fans. I know fans are disappointed, and believe me when I say this, we are just as disappointed, if not more so, to not be able to get the game out on time. There hasn't been a final decision yet. Right now, we are just reacting." Now, like you see, Neil Druckmann himself has clearly mentioned that they are only reacting to the current situation. They obviously are not planning on getting the game delayed any further as much as possible. Now, Neil Druckmann has also said another point here that very clearly makes sense to what I've been telling you guys for all these days. And this is what Neil Druckmann said, and I quote, "Right now, we're looking for all sorts of different options. What's the best way to get it to all our fans as soon as possible?
Digital.
But that's going to take time for us to shift and figure things out and also see where the world's at." Now here, Neil Druckmann very clearly mentions that they are currently looking at a different option to release the game to all the fans as soon as possible. And in order to do that, obviously Sony and Naughty Dog are going to take time to shift and figure a new strategy to release the game. And at the same time, they also want to see if the world gets any better, so they can revert back to the same plan of releasing The Last of Us 2 as both physical and digital on May 29th as planned. Now this is the sole reason to why PlayStation has refunded everyone that has pre-ordered The Last of Us 2 digitally on the official store. Because obviously they want to be clearing out all the previously planned release schedules to bring out a much faster option to release the game. Now Sony could also be working with all the other retailers, explaining them on how they are planning to release The Last of Us 2, since the world is now at a very bad spot. And obviously the physical copy production is not going to be possible anytime soon at all. So Sony might be contacting the retailers to let them know that if the situations don't get better, then they might be releasing The Last of Us 2 as a digital release for now, since they want to return the money to their investors as promised. Now obviously they're not going to be telling all of these business part of things to all of us consumers or fans, because that is none of our business and doesn't really matter to us anyways. So what about those guys who have pre-ordered the physical versions at GameStop or Amazon or whatever other retailers? So what's to do with these physical pre-orders? Now Neil has clearly mentioned here that they are shifting and figuring things out right now, which means Sony is most probably trying to figure out a new solution for all of those guys who have pre-ordered the physical version before making any new announcements, because they are now planning for the best way to release the game out as soon as possible. Now this is not me saying, this is Neil Druckmann saying it himself, as you guys can see whatever he's spoken on the podcast, on his tweets, and multiple other social medias. So once they make these new changes, we most probably will receive a refund to all our pre-orders, and we can pre-order the game once again with whatever new strategy Sony comes up with to release the game much sooner. Whether it being a digital release or convincing their investors for more time and releasing it with physical versions, So anybody that says, well, the digital release is not going to happen, that is absolutely not possible, or Sony wouldn't do that kind of thing, basically has no idea on how business side of things works when you're running a company and what it means to deliver the promises you make as a contract with your investors. Whether as a company, if you make profits or lose your money, your duty as a company who has agreed to repay the investors has to do their part of the contract, no matter the loss you endure. And that's basically how business works all over the world. So anyone saying that Sony won't do it because they're going to lose money basically has no idea on how the gaming industry runs. Now I know that most of my viewers are adults, and if you guys are into business or running a company that runs on investment shares, then you would probably know the situation that Sony is currently in. And some of you might say, well, Blackwoods, you only have 14,000 subscribers and I only believe channels that have bigger numbers. Well, if that's the case, then go on and believe whatever the bigger channel wants you to hear. But the facts are right here in front of the tables. So there is a very high possibility that Sony might release a digital version for The Last of Us 2 without delaying the release date, depending on how the current situation of the world is at. Now, I want to know what you guys think would happen. Do you think that Sony is likely going to be releasing the digital version? Or do you think that they will be taking the risk of losing their investors to make a little more profit by delaying the game until the world goes back to normal and when all the productions and manufacturers are back to making physical copies, which at this point might take months or even a year if luck comes to a push? I mean, you guys are seeing the news and you guys know that the situations are only getting worse every single day. But I want to know what you guys' opinions are about this in the comments down below. I would love to see what you guys think about this. And if you guys have any further questions regarding The Last of Us Part 2, and if you want to stay updated all the time on Last of Us 2 situations, then make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, because Twitter is where I am most active. And in fact, I'm active on Twitter almost all day. So I will leave my Twitter link in the description as well as in the pinned comments of this video. So make sure you guys go ahead and follow me there. And if you guys are looking for a channel that covers The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and even Cyberpunk 2077, then you should consider subscribing to my channel and turning that bell notifications on. And guys, if you're new to this channel and you don't know this already, then I am running a giveaway of The Last of Us Part 2 Standard Edition. So I will be choosing the winners from those who stayed the most active in the community, and I will send the winners a digital download code on your Twitter DMs. So always feel free to go give your luck a shot. And if you guys did go on and enjoy this video and want to support me on making more The Last of Us 2 videos, then make sure to go ahead and leave a like, as it does help the video out a lot. With that being said, I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Till then, take care, fams, and goodbye.
Great video, bro. He brought up a great point, because I was not thinking about investors at all in any way possible. Like, literally wasn't thinking about that shit, bro. This was a good ass video. I'm not gonna lie. Go subscribe to my guy Blackwoods. You feel me? Most of y'all, all y'all probably already know. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man. I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't know anything about I mean, I knew about investors, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, they need to hurry up and like make this shit happen or make this decision, because they gotta pay these niggas. You know what I'm saying? People put money into this game. They gotta get their money back and more. It's literally an investment. So like, they gotta do that. So I'm kind of like 50-50 on it after watching this video, for sure. I was always 50-50 on like the decision making and all that, like with the digital copy coming out and not coming out. Like I'm literally just there in between. I don't know what's gonna happen, so I'm just waiting. What y'all think about this? I need every single one of y'all to drop your comments, man. Make sure y'all watching them ads though. Watching them ads, man. 30 seconds. Fuck with your boy. No. Anyway, bro, I'm gonna catch y'all later, man. We got more bangers on the way. Alright, this is probably a long ass video too. This is probably gonna be like 12 minutes, 13, I don't know, maybe 14 minutes, maybe. Hey, but if you enjoyed this video, definitely leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, turn on notifications to get notified when I upload and stream. I'm out. It wouldn't necessarily be fair. It's just not fair, because a lot of people are getting the collector's edition, the early edition, and all that shit. They're getting everything with it, so they want to get the game with it as well, all at once. You know, waiting in line and shit, that's actually a tradition for most people, you feel me? So, you know, that's why I think it's just not fair. But we're going to talk about that afterwards, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and get it.